Welcome to Social Media Pie. Hey, I've got a very special guest on with me today, Ariel Lee. Hey, Ariel, how are you doing today?
Hey, Brenda, I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here. For anybody who knows me well, they know that I don't usually like to shower before lunchtime. So the fact that I'm dressed and have makeup on at 9:05 is impressive. That means I'm grateful to be here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. You look lovely, and I appreciate you making the effort. I totally feel you. You can see I've got my hair in one of these. This is like the mom hack. Like when we're running late, I've
Absolutely.
got I'm like, throw it up, and it looks like a fancy updo.
I was going to say it looks polished, even though it's pretty simple to accomplish. I love it.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I want to welcome the audience for those that are watching us live. If you could drop a comment below, this lets us know that this thing is on. I mean, back in the pre-pandemic days, we would like tap the microphone. Can you guys hear me in the back? And people would wave or they do the universal, we can't hear you. And then we'd adjust the AV. Like now we're in this live video world. And if we don't see comments coming in from our viewing community, we're not sure if the live feed is working. So please drop a comment below and say, yes, it's working. That would help us out. And I do see some comments starting to come in. So it looks like the live feed is going. So Ariel and I know each other from, I kind of feel like I think it's from Clubhouse originally, isn't it? I feel like we got to know each other there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then we started following each other or connecting on LinkedIn. And then I think we've just continued to watch each other over the years as well. So why don't you take a moment, tell us a little bit about you, how you're using LinkedIn, and then we're going to jump into this conversation today.
Absolutely. So for anybody out there who I don't know yet, my profile is structured around the LinkedIn coaching that I do. Was not something that I ever really wanted to dive into or was trying to make a side hustle out of, but it was really actually very early on in my LinkedIn experience. I think I had like 2,000 followers and people were like, how are you getting this much engagement? What are you doing? Let us know what your strategy is. And so I had people reaching out to me for help. And after months and months of, doing those kind of conversations for free, seeing a lot of people not necessarily utilize the advice, it kind of dawned on me that maybe people don't value the free advice. So switch to the LinkedIn coaching model. It's really just something I do for fun because I'm passionate about LinkedIn. This space provides all of my clients for my day job, which I can't talk about. So that's the primary reason I'm here. The LinkedIn coaching is just like a passion project. It's not something that I'm trying to turn into a full-time gig. I leave that for the brilliant people like Brenda and Leah and Andy, all my dear friends. So I call myself a dabbler in that space.
Well, I kind of felt like, when you say dabbler, I was like, really? Because it seems like this is your thing, but I think it's the level of visibility and the fact that you get it. I mean, there's some people that claim to be LinkedIn coaches and strategists and all the other good stuff, and then you look at their profile and they're not demonstrating. I mean, I kind of call them rock star principles, and Jeff Young helped me to create the acronym when I was doing the list, but it's a certain approach. It's not about you. It's a little bit about you, right? It's your profile, but it's really more about engaging with your network, which introduction to our topic today, we're going to be talking about giving engagement to get engagement on the platform. So as we jump into the conversation, let's first just address that as a topic, Ariel. Why is engagement important on LinkedIn?
So the reason why you want engagement on LinkedIn is because I think anybody who's producing content is doing it to be seen. They want to get their thoughts out there. They want to get their business out there, their, whatever they're promoting. But what a lot of people don't realize is that it really doesn't matter how amazing your content is or how incredible your product is. If you're not known as like a warm, friendly face around the LinkedIn platform, you're not going to get those eyeballs because you haven't earned them. Obviously, like little asterisks for the oddball viral post that happens for people who are so happy to announce their new job, like that happens. But if you're going to be like a regular contributing member of the platform, it's not a fair assumption to think that you can just put stuff out there and people will come to you. You have to also give. And I always joke, I'm like, the LinkedIn platform is very karmic. And I don't know if the algorithm knows how active you are supporting other people. And so it rewards you for that by allowing your content to get
Mhm.
more views. Or if it's really just a simple human nature thing, like, okay, I see Brenda out there supporting everybody else, so I want to support her. So I would say it's probably a blend of those two things. Um,
Mhm.
but that's my number one. Like when people reach out to me for LinkedIn coaching, and this shows how much I don't do it. Like it's literally a very infrequent side gig. But
Yeah.
like I think an hour with me is $200 right now or something like that. And so they'll reach out and ask about that. And I'm like, I can tell by looking at your activity section that you're throwing your money away if you pay
Right.
me for $200, because all I'm going to tell you is you need to be engaging more with other people. And so
But I would say that's $200 well spent because when you
well,
think about
totally.
I mean, each of us, like, if you think about what your hourly rate is that you're billing or charging, whatever that you're making out there, and if you're spending all this time on LinkedIn, think about that every hour you're spending is a
Yeah.
billable hour,
Yeah.
that you're not gaining clients with the wrong approach. I would say that's $200 well spent.
That's a great
Because
point. I usually point them. I have a video that just sort of outlays my basic strategy.
Yeah,
The one-on-one stuff is more for a deep dive on,
right.
what I think of your profile, what tweaks there, what you could change about your content. The
Mhm.
video sort of lays out my core LinkedIn beliefs, basically.
Yeah.
So for
Mhm.
$57, you can get that. Just comment more,
Gotcha.
along with some other things. So
And I have to
that's
comment
what
too.
I think. But no, I'm with you. That
Yeah,
is money well spent if you don't get the general principles of networking,
right.
basically.
And I have to comment too because there's probably some folks watching that are like, "Brenda, what the heck are you doing? You're bringing on your competition. Like she's talking about LinkedIn coaching. Like what are you doing?" I mean, this whole principle of social media karma is like central to what I do on LinkedIn and my approach on LinkedIn. And I've actually my LinkedIn success is accelerated when I started surrounding myself with people like
100.
Ariel. People I like to say they're not competition, they are co-opetition.
I
I mean,
love
the more that we support each other, the more that we are all successful. It's like this abundance mentality
Yes.
type of an approach. So let's kind of take a step back in time for you. You said there was kind of this point in time where you started to accelerate on LinkedIn, and I'm guessing it was due to this approach with engagement. Can you tell us a little bit about what you learned early on in the process, and giving some tips to folks that are watching today?
So when I was first getting started on LinkedIn, I had a profile since 2014, but was kind of like everybody else. I would only go on it when I got mad at my current boss and was like, I'm gonna go on LinkedIn and find a new job. Like that's how I think the majority of people use LinkedIn. But so when I really wanted to dive deep into it, I started a new career in January of 2020, but wasn't licensed to do what I do until May. So it was like
Mhm.
height of the lockdown.
Mhm.
Had no opportunities to network and meet people face to face. So I knew that I had to figure out a way to make LinkedIn work. Um, and there were some experts that I had heard um, that literally just said search in your geographical area, send 50 to 100 connection requests a day. When people connect with you, send them a templated DM talking all about yourself and then asking for a quick 15-minute Zoom to get to know them better.
Right.
And I honestly did that for a couple months, and it makes me cringe now if I pull up an old message like to wish somebody a happy birthday or
Yeah.
something, and they were somebody that was connected with me prior to when I
Oh,
figured out that that was
back in the
icky.
pre-days of engagement when
Oh
you
my
were like
gosh, I'm so mortified to think about it, but it's just one of those things you don't know until you don't know.
yeah.
Um, and so I finally the light bulb went off because that process was not effective. It was a time waster, and people
Mhm.
kept saying it's a numbers game, it's a volume thing.
Right.
Um, and I just can't tell you how much I disagree with that. But I did it for a while because that's what I was told to do. So um,
But you learn, right?
I
You
learned. Well, and
learn
the
what
light bulb went
people
off.
tell
I
you.
was like, why do these people not want to talk to me? I'm like, I'm great. People should
Right.
love me, you know? But then it occurred to me that the message that I was sending was not me. And so I
Yeah.
just sort of flipped the switch and figured out that I needed to show up the way that I actually was. And that involved not sending DMs, talking all about myself, but literally just sharing and supporting everybody else on the platform. And
So
it Go
so I
ahead.
gotta ask a question because when you talked about kind of shifting your approach, And I want to pull up your LinkedIn profile as we get into this next question right now, because there's something in your profile that is very intriguing, I think. And it's this unicorn theme that you have. So tell us, I mean, when did the unicorn make its way into your profile? Was that about the same time when you started to shift your approach, or because if you do look at Ariel's profile and you see what her background is, you're going to be like, wow, and she's got a unicorn in her header. Like, that's intriguing. So tell me about the backstory there.
So, and I wish I could remember who said it and send them a note to thank them or whatever. But somebody made a comment to me around October of 2020, which is when I shifted into sort of being more myself and just putting it out there. Um, and they said that they called me a unicorn because they said it was so weird that I was this super bubbly people person that was also like a highly organized, little bit OCD numbers nerd kind of person. They just said that those were odd. They used the word unicorn. At the time, I popped it in my headline. And it just sort of took off from there. People always ask me if I've like always loved unicorns. I'm not even that obsessed with unicorns. It's just more
Yeah.
like a metaphor for my personality.
That's funny. So in preparation for our phone call today, I was kind of like, I gotta find something. And I don't know if you guys can see it. I'm gonna pull my screen up. I have to find something. Oh, I know what it was.
I love it.
So, and like for me, my thing is pie. I mean, you probably, like social media pie, and I talk a lot about, and I do love pie, but I don't eat like pie every day. It's just something that adds
It's a
flavor
good
and personality.
metaphor. Yeah.
Unicorns are your thing. So I got this little guy at the Together Digital National
Oh, I love
Conference
that.
pre-pandemic. And it was actually a really brilliant thing. They were trying to encourage people to come up on stage and ask the panel questions, and they said you get a unicorn, and I was like, oh, I gotta get one to win and take home to my daughter. But I mean, the unicorn approach that you use is kind of like creating this personality, and like for me, and I'm sure for many others watching this, comment below if you agree, like it totally is your personality. It's like this outgoing, warm, very community focused. I mean, we're talking about engagement, giving to get. I mean, that describes you perfectly. So even though you say no, it wasn't something I kind of feel like it's embraced you, or you've embraced it. I don't know, maybe one of
Yeah,
each.
totally. No, and I mean it's like I said, I wish I could remember who said it so that I could send them a thank you. But it really, and it's so funny because I am outgoing in person. I definitely am an extrovert. Um, However, on social media, typically I'm literally like on Facebook, which I can't stand, so I don't
Yeah.
spend much time there anymore. But on Facebook, I'm the person that if you show up in my people you may know section, I'm not going to send a friend request because I'm going to assume that I'm also in your people you may know and you're not
Yeah.
requesting me, so you must not want to be friends. Like that's my
Okay.
my thing. I'm a little bit more reserved on social media. So the hurdle for me in terms of engagement was to get over the fact that because the way I expanded my network mostly was commenting on second degree connections, finding
Really? Yeah.
new and interesting people in my feed to sort of leave a meaningful comment and then send a connection request. And so the good morning, Ariel.
Did you see that? I was like, I didn't want it to distract me, but I was like, we've now become a celebrity name
I
meld.
love it. I love it. Good
Thank
morning.
you,
Um,
thank you, Andy.
so jumping over that hurdle of
Yeah.
assuming like I don't know this person, they're going to be like, who the heck is Ariel? Why is she commenting on my stuff? But the more time you spend on LinkedIn and the more comfortable you get here, you realize like nobody is going to wrinkle their nose and be like, oh, who is Ariel? It's a community that appreciates that sort of engagement, appreciates input as long as it's respectful, even if it's coming from somebody that you don't know.
Right.
And so that was the barrier for me to jump over that thing.
So let's talk about comments, because I know there's probably like some do's and don'ts when when you're trying to really grow your network and grow your visibility and demonstrate that you are authentic and you are doing the right things, right? So give us some advice, some tips on engagement as it relates to comments. Advice for people.
Sure. So I always use the word meaningful comments. I am big on adding to the conversation. I try not to just post things like, oh my gosh, I love this, or I want it to be deeper than that.
Mhm.
There are some times where there's really not much more you can say, and that's okay.
Right.
And if you're out there and you're creating content and you're getting a lot of short snippet comments, maybe do some reflection on, am I inviting conversation here? Am I leaving there more for them to say? Because if you're not inviting the conversation, there's really not much more a commenter can say than, oh, this is great, or,
Mhm.
whatever. But in terms of meaningful comments, you want to shoot for, and there's a rule for it. And like, I'm sure John Asperian probably knows, I want to say that it's more than 10 words is what the
I
algorithm.
always say 5, but,
Okay.
like, for me, it's like, I remember when I ran track in high school and I was never good, but I did finish my races and I beat my personal best a couple times, but I remember my track coach would say, "You don't just run," because he would notice me do it, "You don't just run to the finish line and stop running. You run, like, you aim 20 yards beyond so that you're going at full force." So when we say, like, use 5 or more words or use 10 or more words,
Yeah.
the point here is you're not just saying,
Great
"Congrats,
post, or yeah.
nice article." It's like a longer type of sentiment, right?
Exactly. And I think if you can extend the conversation, and this goes for comments on your own post or comments on somebody else's, but if you can extend the conversation with asking a follow up question, or anything you can do to add to the conversation, just think of that as adding to the relationship. You're deepening that relationship with whoever posted that piece of content or whoever commented on your post. The more that you can do to keep digging in that conversation, the better it is.
So what about the people, Ariel, that are like they jump into a conversation and their first comment is, "This reminds me of something we offer at ABC Company, which is a service to help you optimize blah 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 blah
Right.
blah and
Bless
sell
their
more and
hearts.
more."
Yeah. No, it's, that's a really delicate thing. I would say avoid that in most cases. If someone is specifically asking for suggestions of products or services, then I would say it's okay in that case. But if you are going around commenting, specifically trying to tie your product or service into whatever topic they're discussing, that would be a faux pas. So,
Okay.
if you sell LinkedIn coaching and someone is posting that they are struggling and they just don't know, maybe offer one or two kind of common knowledge tips, try to be
Mhm.
helpful. This is, again, the whole basic principle of networking is to try to lift up and support as many people as possible. And there doesn't have to be a dollar sign in front of that. So you try to uplift. And then the chances are that that person, if they wanted to move to that next step and
Mhm.
pay for that product or service, you're going to be the first person on their mind because you're the one that stepped in to help them. Um, so I think that, yeah, I think it's a faux pas to constantly bring up your product or service in the comments unless that person is specifically and explicitly asking.
I love that point because it's not an always yes or no. It's and if someone says, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to help me with website
Exactly.
SEO, who do
Exactly.
you know?" Tag them below. Then it makes sense.
Perfect.
"Hey, we do
Yeah.
website SEO," and tagging them in. Um, but the point of, lifting up and supporting as many people as possible, I've been kind of putting your tips on screen here to help people remember them. You made me think of something else, and you ever have those moments where you're like, "Oh, that was a really good point. I want to come back."
All day, every
Totally
day.
forgot. Totally forgot. It's like, phew, I have no idea where it went. So we're just gonna keep on going here.
No
Um,
worries.
any other tips or what not to do when we're thinking about giving engagement to get engagement?
So I would say don't pigeonhole yourself into feeling like it's only worth it to engage with your ideal client
Mm.
profile or people in your immediate geographic area or whatever. I can't express to you enough how valuable this whole platform has been with, like, there are so many people. So for my primary business, I can't do business outside the United States. That
Okay.
doesn't mean that I don't have amazing friends in the UK and
Yeah.
Australia, and it just, don't pigeonhole yourself.
And feel
Don't
free to
think.
shout them out if you want, because I'll tag them into comments and we'll let them know we're talking about
Yeah.
the
I mean, it's just, I literally couldn't, there's hundreds, thousands probably, but I I just keep thinking, because I see advice sometimes that's like, focus on interacting with your ideal client profile. And obviously that has to be a piece of it, right? We're
Yeah.
here for business. We are spending our valuable time on this platform. There has to be an ROI.
Yeah.
But if you're just, if you're so short-sighted that you don't think that there's any value in interacting with anybody who can't be a client, you're missing the boat, because
Right.
you don't know who other people know. You don't know who is going to see a comment on someone else's post.
Right.
So there is value in visibility.
Right.
And that's kind of been the cornerstone of my whole presence, that by commenting frequently, one, I'm seen as a frequent, familiar, friendly face. People know and recognize my name, my headline, my picture. But I don't know. It for me made sense to broaden that net as widely as possible, and sort of just allow the people that I resonate with or resonate with me to come into my universe, and not really care who they were or where they were from, as long as we kind of clicked on that level.
And I feel like sometimes people, I'm gonna generalize here, Ariel. I hope you don't mind. Sometimes people that are coming from your industry, when I visit their profiles, I try to leave as quickly as possible. Like, do they see me? But I don't feel like that with you at all. I feel like you've created this community of engagement, and even like today's chat. I just want to show you a couple of these that are coming in here.
I know,
We've got
I'm doing a
people,
bad job.
people like Will coming on, and he's like, good morning, and then Chris is like, hey, Will, what's going on? And they're having this whole like conversation in our streaming. They could have gone into a DM, but I think it's interesting when we do these live conversations, and there was even somebody that commented earlier about this. It's not just the posting or the impressions and the visibility. It's like when you get into these conversations in a live chat, you get people talking back and forth, and it's trust building and it's relationship building. And I remembered my point. So when you post and then someone will comment, and I like to say, don't pitch and sell to your point, unless they're asking for it. But if you add a thoughtful comment and then you look at the person's profile and you're like, wow, this person might be a good lead or referral, or just a good new connection for me. My point would be follow up in an invitation, right?
Yeah.
And see if they'll connect with you. And then maybe in the follow-up note from there, it might be, by the way, I do LinkedIn coaching as a business. If you're ever interested, let me know. I mean, that's like, for me, that's my sales pitch. Drop mic, walk away. That's as hard as I pitch. If they come back, then it's keeping the conversation going. Thoughts about that approach? Is that something you do too, or?
So and I think because of the reputation that my industry has on LinkedIn, I don't even do that.
No.
Okay.
And wait for them to come up to you then, right?
I do. And when I was sending, it's so funny because my post today is literally like, I'm thinking about starting back with connection messages, which is something I haven't done in over a year now. But the community is key. So I keep seeing Chris say that it's such a community building tool, but no, so I never even, when I was sending welcome messages, I would just say, thanks so much for connecting. I look forward to seeing you around my feed. And then if the conversation went further, it should, in a networking conversation, it should get to the point where you're like, let me know what I can do to best serve and support you on this platform or in life in general. And then there's a reciprocal sort of exchange of information there. But yeah, so I tiptoe pretty widely around anything business related, just because I don't want to.
Right. I think, it's so appealing and refreshing to see that, because you see some people going so hard for the sale, or they come in under I'm going to focus on engagement and doing the right things, but then they don't. They kind of they immediately follow through with the hard pitch on here. And guys, we're all using for the most part, we're all using LinkedIn for business or for our careers. It's a professional networking site, so we get that. But, what's going to get engagement are those genuine, real conversations that people see as adding value for them, not for you, for them, right? It's like that focus on other people. Thoughts on that, Ariel?
No, that is the key. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, If you log into LinkedIn every day and your
Mhm.
first thought is, how much money can I make today? How many new potential clients can I find? And it's all me, 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 you will fail. One,
Right.
because you're probably not going to enjoy it because it takes a while for that snowball to build to where you do see an ROI in terms of gaining clients and things like that. That takes time. So if your focus every single day is that square in terms of how much business you're winning, then you're going to
Mhm.
be miserable. I firmly believe that one of the keys to my success has been that I love every second that I spend on LinkedIn. And I spend a lot of seconds here. But it's because I view it as a social platform. So I
Yeah.
am social. I'm purely just trying to connect with other humans, especially in a weird time when it's kind of hard to connect with other people. And
Yeah.
I've really found so much joy in being able to connect with people based on common interests or just a
Yeah.
shared vibe less than like, oh, you live within 30 minutes of me. Like, I think that that's such a blessing to be able to connect with people based on a personality mesh and not just a you happen to live in the same town kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
That's a really good point. Now I'm curious, are you out doing networking in person again yet? Or are you I'm still mainly like probably 98% virtual. I'm dabbling a little bit, but how about you? Are you up back in person yet or are you only doing virtual
same.
still?
So I joke, I have a local women's networking group that's probably about 12 ladies. We meet on the fourth Wednesday.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and it's really just an excuse to get together and drink wine and not have to cook dinner for our
Love it.
family. So it's less of a networking and more of just an excuse to get out of the house, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I like that. I have some groups that I'm looking forward to being involved in the future, but I haven't attended yet.
Yeah.
And me and my friends spoke at a conference this past October, sort of about LinkedIn and social selling and networking and things
Awesome.
like that. So that was sort of an in-person networking opportunity that I really enjoyed. But no, I'm with you 98% online and I'm really struggling to like, I know that there are in-person things that I
I
should
know.
be doing. I know that there are activities that I should be doing out of this house. And those require pants. And
And
that's not
doing
my
our
thing.
hair and makeup and not wearing yoga pants
Yeah,
and
like I mean, I am definitely still like slippers, yoga pants.
yeah.
I'm dressed from here up. That's how I roll. That's how I'm comfortable. So,
Yeah.
um,
No,
but
and it's interesting too because we are going to get back to the point where we are networking in person again, but it's been a very traumatic past 2 years and it's even I don't know about you Ariel, but when I see people in public I'm kind of like how do we interact with human beings?
oh my god, my
Like
husband
I know
made
how to do
so
it
much
flat
fun of
screen.
me. This conference last October,
Yeah.
so I knew one person that was part of the organization who invited me to speak. And then I had my friends who were coming there to speak with me. And those were the only people that I knew.
Yeah.
And my husband and I showed up to the cocktail hour before the conference started, and none of those people that I knew were there. And so
Oh
I'm
boy.
just like off in the corner with my wine, like didn't want to talk to anybody because I'm not in that industry. I felt weird
Yeah.
about it. And he's like, you're literally here to talk about networking. And you're just
Isn't
like,
the
yes.
irony, right?
So yeah, in person is not my jam right now. I need to get better at it. So
Oh, it's but I think we have to give each other grace because we're all gonna get there at a different level. I feel like there's huge opportunity for people that are meeting in person because
yeah,
there's not as many people out there, and I think people are really hungry for in-person networking
totally.
again. But I think we have to be respectful that everyone's gonna come back at a different comfort level, and some people may never be handshakers again or huggers, and
I
I
do.
would
Everybody that I meet, I'm like, are you a hugger or a
if you
handshake?
ask, because I was at an event recently and somebody came up and full on gave me a hug, and
Oh,
I was masked and I did not open my arms to embrace, and that would have been my first cue, like stop hugging if the person doesn't, like, but ask first. Are
right.
you okay with hugging? Are you okay with handshaking? If not, can we shoulder bump or whatnot? But I mean, we're talking about engagement online, but I think when we get back in person, we're going to have to respect boundaries and comfort levels there too, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I want to shift our gears a little bit, guys. And I've got a ticker running below that says, hey, if you have a comment or question to add to the conversation, pop it in right now. And there's about a 30-second delay from the time that you ask a question to the time that we see it. So if you're not seeing me pop you up right away, it's not because I'm ignoring you, because I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. But it is because there's a little half a second minute delay, I should say, on there. So let's see. We have, all folks talking about attire at networking events. Kenneth is going to have to get his sport jackets out. We have Daniel saying in-person events still scary. Yeah, I think it's not just for you, Daniel, to your point, your family.
Right.
We're, you know, wherever you are in the spectrum of kind of understanding where COVID's at and vaccine or not, it's out there. And I've known people personally who've passed away. My husband was in the hospital for a little bit. So it's scary. And when it touches you closer to home, understanding that, I think is important. Athleisure wear. Where did that word come from? Is there a new word, do you know, Ariel, for the athleisure wear that's now like for the workplace? Because there has to be, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, I think business casual is going to rotate to athleisure pretty soon is what it feels like. But yeah, I'm definitely my office is actually currently under construction. So when
Yeah.
that gets finished, I will be expected to leave this house every day.
Oh boy.
So I'm hoping that the excitement of the new office will outweigh the like dread of having to put on pants. But I want to think there's a LinkedIn user in the crowd that says one of the things I love about you, Ariel, is that you respond to your comments, even if it's number
I
305.
was going to
So
pull that up, but the
drop
person,
your name, whoever that is. But
yeah,
that definitely is a core belief of mine. And when I see people complain about how difficult it is, I have a couple of pieces of advice for that because I do think it's super important. And one, and so I see Claire asked a similar question, but so one of my beliefs is I reply to comments as if I'm having a live conversation. So I don't have
yeah,
time to think or stress about what I'm saying or how I'm saying it. So it's all very like I think Pragya Mishra with Shield coined the phrase blurt right. And so I just blurt right whatever my response is. And so it's super quick. I type 90 words a minute, get it out. So that's number one. But two, for anybody, I don't have time, I would ask you to be introspective about the amount of non-productive social media time that you spend because we all have time. There are Instagram reel scrolls that last for hours. There are, scrolls through Facebook that just make us angry and irritated. There are non-productive scrolls on LinkedIn where you're just scrolling the feed and you're not intentionally interacting. So if you take away all that non-productive social media time, I promise you have time to respond to 100% of your comments.
absolutely.
But to answer Claire's question, how do I reply to those sort of non-meaningful comments? I usually do. I'll just say thanks. If it is a crazy busy post, sometimes I'll just like it and move on, but that's pretty rare.
I try to, if I get a post that starts to blow up with comments and I don't have time right away, I'll at least go in it and like them, because liking is kind of like patting the person on the head, like, yep,
Right.
I saw you.
Yeah.
I mean, commenting is like turning to them and saying, thank you so much, Ariel. It was great to see you today. Like it's, but if I don't have the time right then and there, at least I'm going to go, okay, I got you, but I'll come back later
Yeah.
and swing back around.
I get my favorite thing is sometimes comments will start entire conversations on my posts. And so because I kind of I've got my eyes programmed to like scan real quick and see what needs a response from me. And sometimes I get confused because somebody else has responded to it. And so I'm like, oh, that one's already good. But then I have to come back. So anyway, it's funny.
Yeah. And I see Chris has said check out his
Oh
post.
my gosh, super
So
valuable.
it's either, and I can see it's Jude Gal who made the comment, and it's Jude, it's either your privacy settings for your photo or there's like a third party setting as well. It's one of those two things. We can see it when we go back into LinkedIn. It's just when
On
LinkedIn pushes the comment to StreamYard, it gets kind of like hidden out of there. Thank you, Chris, so much for doing that. Chris, feel free if you want to drop the link to your post in the comment. I invite you to do so now, because that might maybe help other people that are watching the playback of this as well. Nigel says every comment deserves a reply. That is engagement. Thoughts on that? Is there ever comments you don't reply back to? And I'm gonna just nod to something we were talking about in the pre-show today.
Yes. So there are comments that don't deserve a reply. and those usually get deleted and blocked. So my least favorite thing is the Elon Musk screenshots with
Oh,
5
yeah.
random words. I usually get 3 or 4 of those on every post, and I
You
block
report
them.
them to LinkedIn so LinkedIn knows these
I
people, or do you just
do, but I
delete it?
think that
Okay.
there's no point in it. But yeah, so I report and block those as spam comments. Every once in a while, I'm not a picture poster.
Yeah.
Very frequently because I don't feel like it furthers my objectives. So it's anytime I post a selfie or something like that, there is a lot of activity that takes me a lot of time to reply, but I don't feel like I've necessarily deepened any relationships.
Yeah.
But occasionally on those posts, I will get some very inappropriate comments. And so those will be blocked and deleted.
Yeah.
Or reported, blocked, deleted, whatever the flow may be. But yes,
Yeah.
any genuine comment from a non creepy human deserves a reply.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we were talking about last week I interviewed Leah Turner, and after, I mean, it was it was a great show, great conversation. We feel like some folks from LinkedIn were listening because we heard it was circulated to them. But I also got a handful more creepy comments coming back out to me. And it was like, seriously, the whole conversation was about what not to do. And obviously these are spam accounts or things like that, or people that just don't care. But yeah, just about we're gonna say, Nigel, just about every comment deserves a reply. I would say everything deserves some type of response, and there may be a few that get reported and blocked.
Yes.
Because we don't want to be harassed on the platform. Thank you, Kenneth, for always being a supporter of us. I see Pam said she joined late today, and I want to remind everybody who's watching this is a live stream, but as soon as we are done for today, you can go back and watch the whole thing from front to back live. If you don't like the way LinkedIn kind of loads comments as it's playing, you can go onto YouTube and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube. Just kind of play YouTube in the background. Subscribe to my channel while you're there, by the way. Silent plug there. And Claire agrees with us. Yes, to removing inappropriate comments from creepy people. If I get you probably get these occasionally too. The people that are kind of the trolls, the naysayers, like you post something and then they say some snide comment back. I usually turn it around and I say, hey, hey, Joe, thank you for taking the time to pause and comment, because by doing so, you're actually broadcasting this post out to your network, which is helping me.
Right.
So thank you so much and have a lovely day. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you do that too, or do you just ignore it?
So this is so funny, and I'm going to knock on wood and hope that I'm not like bringing down the troll rain on myself, but I never get those kind of people on my posts, which is bananas to me because I feel like I'm one of the more like if anybody was going to get hit with it, this isn't Facebook, it should be me. Like I feel like
Really?
You have a much more professional presence than I do. That's just my whole world is just to be very open and can sometimes be ridiculous or silly or whatever. And I don't get the trolls. It's so wild. And I don't know if it's that they're like scared that my people would mob them or they just haven't
maybe.
But either way, I'm intensely grateful that I haven't had issues with that to this point.
That's good though. I mean, we definitely want to keep the conversation positive
Yeah.
and keep things moving in the right direction. So if you joined us a little bit later here today, we were talking about giving engagement to get engagement, and such a great conversation, Ariel. As we start to wrap up the conversation today, I want to remind people where they can find you on LinkedIn. Are you open to new invitations, follow only? What's your preference there?
I am definitely open to connections, and again, unless you're a creepy person, but I love meeting new people, and I really value genuine connections. If there's a way that we can add to each other's network, I definitely am here for that. So you'll have to follow is my default option.
Okay.
You'll have to go to more and click connect and go from there.
All right. And I want to remind you guys, in case you missed her just saying that, if you go to Ariel's profile, you're not yet connected. She's got follow. So her blue button is going to say follow instead of connect. If you want to connect with her, go on the more button, which is 2 buttons over. Click on more, and underneath there'll be a drop down. One of the options will say personalize or invite to connect. Mention that you saw her on today's show where we were talking about engagement. You're going to higher likelihood she's going to see it and accept your invitation. And then I also want to share your website if I could, I'm gonna just kind of try to pilot and co-pilot at the same time here, flip the new page into the background automatically. There we go. It is linkedinariel.com, and they can learn more about your coaching services, it looks like, by visiting this website, right?
Absolutely. It is. Uh, I don't do a lot with that website, so it's definitely not a super polished piece of
Oh,
internet.
it is.
Um,
Stop yourself right now. It's awesome.
but the one thing that isn't there is the video that I feel like is probably the core resource for my coaching. Like I said, that's the
Okay.
best starter, like strategy piece. I don't have that there because I'm not allowed to provide it to people in my industry. So I have to sort of
Ah.
screen who wants to buy it before they do. But if you are interested in viewing that, shoot me a DM and I have a link that I can drop you.
All right. Awesome. Ariel Lee, thank you so much, Ariel, for being on. Any final comments? You want to tell people anything else you want to tell us about before we wrap up for
No,
today?
I just want to say I'm so grateful to you for having me. This has been a great conversation. Thanks to everybody showing up in the comments. I really appreciate it. I'm going to go back through and read and catch up on everything a little bit later on today. But I hope everybody has a fantastic Tuesday. Appreciate you starting your morning with us.
All right. Thank you, Ariel. It's been a delight. This is I think, the first time we've actually had a chance to talk one to one. I feel like we've been in clubhouse rooms and other places, but your energy is so genuine. From every interaction I've had with you, you are spot on consistently, Ariel. I mean, wherever I go. So I just want to say thank you so
That's
much. I really
key.
enjoyed the chat.
We didn't talk about that because we were talking about engagement, but I tell everybody how exhausting it must be if you're putting up like a mask. So
Oh
just
yeah.
do do who you are, and then it'll be easy.
Yeah. And as we wrap today, guys, I just want to say, if you enjoyed the conversation, before you leave, please drop a comment below. Tell Ariel something you learned or something that was helpful, or even better, after the video's done, go back in and click on share and share this video as a post on LinkedIn. It's a little content tip for you too if you're struggling with, I don't know what to post on LinkedIn. When you see a video like this that you've watched, as soon as it's done, go back to the post, click on share, and tell people something that you learned. Tag Ariel in the post, tag me in the post. We'll comment back, and we'll spread some love your way as well. But it's a great content tip as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe and healthy, everyone, and we will see you on LinkedIn. Take care. Thank
Bye.
you.